Hello, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to Young Martin's Reels. Today's project is going to be this pair of Shakespeare Service reels. This one says it's a model, let's see if I can get my eyes right, GE, and this one says it is a model GR, it looks like. Okay, so that's just a different, it's in the years, and so far I don't see anything different about the manufacture of the two reels. Everything seems to be identical, and what we're going to do, both of these reels have been subjected to some heavy corrosion. If you look right here at this spool, you'll see that there is a lot of heavy corrosion in this reel. Okay, and the same, this one here is mostly on the center of the spool instead of on the outside of the spool, which makes this one actually much better, because once you get the line wrapped around the center of the spool, it's not likely to hurt it any as it goes around. Whereas this one, with it all eat up on the side with corrosion, that will cut into the line. So we've got to try to smooth all that out. So what we're going to do, I'm going to dismantle both of these reels, and we're going to try something new today. Normally, if I have a reel that is this bad off, I take the really corroded part and I soak it in toilet bowl cleaner, because it's a acid, and it tends to eat that off. Well, one of my viewers suggested using vinegar. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take and tear these two reels down, and we're going to take all the contaminated with corrosion parts, and we're going to put them into a tub and fill it up full of white vinegar. And we're going to let it sit there for a couple of days and see how it turns out. So that's going to be an experiment. Let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and take this one apart first, since it's in the worst condition. Okay, let's unscrew the nut off of the handle. There we go. Take the handle off, and this handle does have some corrosion, so it's going to go into the vinegar. I'm really a little leery about that, because I don't know how the vinegar will affect the plastics. I think we'll leave that out of the vinegar and only use the metal parts in the vinegar. See what comes from that. Okay, let's unscrew the drag. There is our drag washer. That's just a plain flat metal washer. Let's see what we've got up top here. All right, this is a collar designed to press down against the drags. Okay, I'm going to remove these two screws, which appear to be holding everything down. Okay, those are captive screws, so they don't come out. So this comes off, and let's take that spool off. All right, let's get a good look at the rest of this. Now, the rest of this reel here doesn't seem to be corroded. I think this is all going to clean up nicely. It's just really, really dirty. Okay, so these parts, I believe that we can just clean up using the regular WD-40 and scrub this up, and I think it's going to look fine. Let's take a look at the frame assembly. And okay, we have four screws that hold this back side on, and we have a nut here on the worm drive. So let's try taking, well, first off, let's go ahead and try to loosen up the worm drive nut. Okay, there we go. Now that's going to allow the worm drive to slide out this end once we take that screw out and get the pawl out. Okay, so it's okay, come out. And now the pawl, we'll pull that out. go. Yeah, that's very dirty. It's going to need to be cleaned up good. Okay, but then the worm gear comes out. The carrier comes out. Okay, and the rest of this mostly seems to be dirty. There is a little bit of rust right there. So let's go ahead and take this side plate off. This is requiring quite a bit of downward force on these screws to get them to break free. I think we're going to get a different screwdriver. Well, I have a screwdriver with a very wide blade but a very thin side profile. Let me see if I can find that. Okay. That screw's pretty chewed up. Okay, let's try this one over here. Normally, I say do no harm, but this one here, I really need to get that screw out. I can replace, if I can get the head cut off of it, I can replace the screw. I've got more screws. So, what I do need to make sure, though, is that the head doesn't snap off down below, even down here. I need it to snap off. Well, no, because if this has got a sleeve that slides up inside here. So if I cut that head off, that screw head is going to be down inside that. Let's see. Let's try a different screwdriver. Oh, I got it. We got it. I am going to replace this screw, though. Screws out. Yeah, see how it's got that sleeve right there that fits up inside? If I had just cut the head of the screw off, the screw would have still been down inside the hole, and I couldn't have just grabbed hold of it to pull it out. All right, so let's see this part here, if this will come out. I'm going to suggest that we put just it in the alcohol. That didn't want to come out. Okay, how about this gear? Does not need to go in alcohol. There is a washer. Or is that a sleeve? Let's see here. Okay, that doesn't come out. It's going to stay in there. So it's just a bushing. It's inserted down in there. This one comes out, but there's no corrosion on it. So there's no reason to put it in. All right, so this part's going to have to go. It's going to get degreased, and then we're going to put it into the vinegar. But the only parts that really need it is this base piece here and this piece here. The rest of that's in pretty good shape. Let's take a look at this spool. Okay. See if we can get the string out of this. Nope. Okay, it's kind of corroded into the hole, so I'll have to drill that out once we get done. This side over here seems to be okay. It's got some corrosion. This side over here, that will not pull off. So this is going to have to go in. Okay, but there's nothing over here I need to degrease on this one. This one's okay. It can go right in just the way it is. So we only have two parts that need to go into the vinegar. It's going to be this piece and this piece. And they're going to go in and they're going to soak for probably 2 days and see how they, but we'll start off with 1 day and see if we need to bump it up to 2. I'm going to bag all these other parts, and we're going to take the other service reel apart, and we'll see what we need to do on that one. All right, this appears to be corrosion on this. Oh, well, there's a difference in design, I think. Nope, they're the same. Okay. So there's nothing here really, I mean, I see no difference in these reels whatsoever. Okay. But there is some corrosion on this base plate down here. So we're going to put this one in the drink. But I'm going to clean it first. And that'll be it. I'll have to keep them on separate sides so that I know which is which. And let me get another bag. All right, after a little bit of scrubbing, what I have found is that this frame over here really doesn't have any corrosion in it. It looks good. Once I got all the dirt and grease off of it, the frame itself looks good. So it does not need to be exposed to anything else. This one, on the other hand, looks not too bad on the bottom, but up here we've got some rust taking in over here. So this, at least the top half of this, is going to have to be immersed in the vinegar. And of course this spool absolutely is going to be certainly immersed, and this spool here is going to be immersed. And what I'm hoping is that that vinegar does not attack the brass parts. I think it's going to be okay there. So let's get to it and see what we find. There we go. Here's our tub. This is where it's all going to be. We're going to set in this spool. We're going to set in this spool. This worm gear cover. And then we're going to put this one in kind of upside down like so. So to make sure that that part gets into the vinegar. And then we're going to add the vinegar and see what happens. Now, when I do this with toilet bowl cleaner, I never leave it for more than about hour, hour and a half. And if you look, you will see it is already starting to bubble along the corrosion. I don't know if you can see that very well. But there's already some bubbling taking place along the corrosion. Now, let's see if I can pop those bubbles and make sure that that's just not trapped air. And I guess we will see what's going to happen. I have done this experiment with a Jeep T90 transmission before, and I had one. I'm going to look and see if I can find the pictures, and I'll post those. I'll show you what my before and after pictures of that looked like. We didn't try to put the transmission back together and use it that way, but I wanted to experiment with the vinegar to see how well it would clean things up. And it did a really good job for the most part. now I'm going to put the lid on this, and it's going to be a couple of days now before we finish out this video for you guys. Okay, we're back from the bath, and this part cleaned up really nice. It's pretty smooth. You can see the copper underneath where they did the copper chrome copper coating before they put the chrome coating on, and it looks pretty good. What I did find is that this piece is too far gone to be able to save. And if you look, it's actually corroded away and disintegrating, the center post. Look. See there? For my purposes in the, and what happened is where the hole went through it for the line, well, that hole allowed rust to get down inside this post. And so it rusted the whole thing up inside. So all this is corroded and rusty underneath. And yeah, look, it's cracked through here. That rust had swelled it out and cracked it everywhere. But it is still very strong. It could actually be used. And for my purposes, I'm still going to put it together and add this service reel up into my collection. Would I call this a good reel when I want to sell to somebody? Absolutely not. Also, the ends of it over here were so corroded that it isn't even funny. And I ended up having to take a file and clean them up a little bit. Now, some of you may say, well, maybe that corrosion happened because of the vinegar. Well, that's not the case. Here's the other one. And if you notice, the ends of it still look great. They're in good shape. The gear still needs to be cleaned out. I didn't work on that. But the center post, the rust itself, for the most part, has come off. And it actually looks pretty good. So this one's going to go back to Ken once I get it back together, and we'll clean up the gear here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take a pick, I think. We'll start off with a pick anyway. I have several of these I picked up. They were at Harbor Freight for little or nothing. And I can take and run that across the teeth on the gear to clean out all the old grease and dirt. And then I'll give it a couple of shots of WD-40 to clean it off. Okay, so now comes the question, is the vinegar any better or worse than the toilet bowl cleaner? It's slower by a long shot. If you were to put the vinegar into a tank, put it in there, and forget about it, yeah, you could do some very serious long-term damage, I think. But you could do even worse with the toilet bowl cleaner. So, but I think you're less likely to walk away and forget it with the toilet bowl cleaner because you're standing there monitoring it. That choice would be up to you guys. It was an interesting experiment. It was fun to do. Okay, all of this we're just going to spray down and scrub individually with WD-40. But this part we still need to take apart. And that's going to mean removing these 4 screws, maybe 5 screws out of the bridge. Let's see here. This one is not a bridge screw. This one is holding the arm for the spool disengagement. I believe that's what that's for. We'll see as we get towards putting it back together what that's actually used for. Because so far, I don't see that it does anything. Well, that screw there doesn't seem to do anything for removing the bridge. So it looks like we have 3 screws here that hold the bridge in. It's one under here, one under here, one under here. So we flip this over. There they are, 1, 2, 3. So let's take those 3 screws out. All right, that's going to allow us to remove the bridge assembly. Okay. There we go. There's what that's for. This is your anti-reverse lever. And if you look, wow, it's very minute motion. Watch this end, the anti-reverse lever right here, it just moves. That's very small movement, isn't it? Okay, well, I guess we'll have to see when we get down there. Okay, this one here, yeah, it's got just as big a hole. So there's the movement back and forth. Okay, now I don't know if you can see it. There is a spring in that hole. Okay, so there is a spring operating that lever right there. And there's the other end of it. It looks like over there, but I'm not sure about that part yet. But it is still functional. All right, so we're going to scrub this part. Let's see what we got with the rest of this gear assembly. Okay, now all of this is held together by a screw here. Let's see if we can remove the screw. We're going to sit it down flat, or as flat as it will sit, because it's rounded. But at least we can put some pressure on the screw. There we go. Okay, I'm going to keep that screw out separate because it's different, or it could be different than all the rest, although it appears to be the same. And we're going to see about taking the gear off the post. Wow, this is really nasty, dirty grease. Okay, in the center, we have this click ratchet. Okay. That is brass on brass, it looks like. I won't know for certain until I get it cleaned up. That appears, it looks like, is there a washer inside that? I can't hardly tell. Let's clean it up a little bit and find out what's going on in there. Okay, it's just brass on brass inside there. If there is a washer, it's packed in there so tight it's never going to come loose in there. Okay, let's look back at the bottom side of this then and see if there's anything here that comes off. It appears that this click ratchet here would come off, and it does. Okay, and there appears to be an eared washer. There is, right here. On top of the eared washer, there is a fabric washer, it appears. Okay. There we go. All right. All of these parts now are going to be sprayed in WD-40 and scrubbed up, and we're going to go back to reassembly. Okay, now, in most instances, this would be considered quite good. It's nice and clean. There's still little bits of dirt and stuff in here. I want to, just for my own personal satisfaction, I'm going to take this out to the garage and I'm going to spray it with some brake cleaner just to rinse out any residual dirt. Okay, a couple of quick shots with brake cleaner, and it's all cleaned out now. And the point of this was to show you that this can be cleaned adequately without having to disassemble all these parts in here. And I know I tend to like to take things apart, but I think that's a little bit unnecessary. And if I ever feel the need to go in beyond that, maybe I would, but I don't think so. I think we're good. All right, I wanted to point out a little bit of damage that's here on the worm gear. And if you look, this worm gear, they used grease on it instead of oil. And what happened is moisture got up underneath the grease pooled up on the ends as it pushed it back and forth. And what happened, that moisture set up underneath there, and it caused this to corrode on here. I'm going to try to sand or file that off a little bit and see if I can get it to smooth down. But it's done it on both ends where the grease had piled up and compacted. For you guys, it's only been a few seconds since you saw me last. For me, it's been over a week since I've been back to work on this reel. And I had some issues I had to take care of, so that's all done now. But what we've got here on this reel is that this cam lobe in the back here, down here, is no longer moving this arm as far as it should move it. Okay, if you look right here, you will see that there's practically no motion whatsoever. That's all it's moving it. Okay, it should be moving it like this one. Okay, which moves that arm, that lever, further out of the way. And I've been contemplating how to go about fixing this. And I'm going to try a few things. Basically, this reel is a fail. Okay, and as I said earlier in the video, this spool is cracked and split all the way through. So the reel's going to be a fail anyway. But I also told you I wasn't going to take this thing apart, and I've done that already. And the reason being is because if I'm having trouble with this, somebody else out there probably is too, and they wanted to know how to take it apart and put it together. And I think I've already shown you how to do that, but we're going to do it one last time, hopefully one last time. And we're going to go into this reel. And what I'm going to try to do, I'll explain it as I go to do it. But basically, right now, we're going to try to take as much tension off of this as we can. And I'm going to remove the spring, and then we're going to take it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert this screwdriver into the spring here, like so. And then I'm going to lift this out just to take the pressure off, and then just unhook it. Okay, with that done, I'm going to take out the center screw here. That'll allow this part to come free, and then we're going to take out the screw here. Okay, so we're going to unscrew this one first. Okay, we're going to take out this cam lobe. When this comes free, it comes off of that spring right there, and it's going to pop a little bit. That's okay. All right, now this is where I want you to see what's going on. Now what we've got is we've got a hole in this cam lobe. It's elongated. Okay, see there? That little bit of motion right there is what's allowing this, when the cam moves, it keeps it from being able to move this over to where it needs to be. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to flatten or elongate this hole this way. Okay, I thought about trying to solder it in, braze it in. I've been thinking about this for a while. And what I really think is probably going to be the best thing to do is I'm going to try to use a pair of pliers or something. But what I want to try to do is take this hole and make it so that instead of being 0.65 millimeters wide, it's closer to 6.3 millimeters. Let's try it in more than one way. Yeah, I'm going to try to make it about 6.35 millimeters wide. This direction. And what that'll do is it should tighten it up and allow the arm to move the rest of the way that we need it to go. So what I'm going to try to do is to heat it in a vise and tap it down gently. And we'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, now I'm a little bit afraid of trying to cold work this, because I'm afraid of splitting or cracking or folding that part. And what I want to try to do though is try to flatten it out. Now, the real way to fix this is to replace it with a new part. Unfortunately, there are no new parts around that I've been able to find to repair this with. So we're going to attempt a backyard repair. Then I'm going to gently heat this on each side. And then very lightly see if that had any effect whatsoever. 0.657, that's a little bit. We didn't do much to it, but I want to be very gentle with this. I don't want to be harsh on it. Yeah, I don't want to. And starting to distort it, which is what I did not want to do. I want it to stay flat. I did get just slightly too carried away with it. Yep, I need 0.635, I think is what I said. And I'm down to 0.625. So I can adjust that very gently with a file. Yep. Okay. So we will take it out until it just does meet that requirement. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it this way with the pliers so that it can't distort. It's going to have to keep its shape, and yet it will have to go back the other way. Okay, let's try that. All right, let's see how that fits on the cam lobe. All right, look at the difference now. Some motion, but nowhere near as much. We're going to put this back together and see if we have effected a repair. And by keeping all of the original metal in place, this hopefully is going to properly repair this. I'm rather curious. There is a washer that was installed on this underneath here. And I'm not sure that it was original to this piece. I'm wondering if somebody installed that in an attempt to bring that out and make it work. Tell you what we're going to do. Before I put this one together, we're going to take this one apart, and we'll see if it has a washer under it. Okay, there's the cam lobe. And as I suspected, there is no washer under there. Okay, so we're going to put this one all back together. We'll clean it up and put it together in a little bit. Again. There's our motion. That looks like it might be far enough out. All right. We're going to drop this in. I'm going to show you how to build this up in just a second. First, we want to test and see if this is a fail or if we're wasting our time. Okay, now what the problem was when we were backpedaling, and it's still catching just slightly. I'm going to remove it. It's much, much better, but it's still very slightly catching. So I'm going to call this a fail on this. And we're going to abandon that reel at this point. I'm going to stick it back together and put it on my shelf, but it's a fail. Okay? And we are going to move on and finish this other reel, which is not a fail, which is going to be a serviceable reel. And for now, I'm going to pop all these parts over into this one, and I'll assemble it later. At the end of the video, you'll see it assembled, but we will not waste any more time on it for the video.